We are a nation hooked on pills and medicinal quick fixes. Our health service spends billions of pounds on drugs that we might not need. The Food Hospital is the first of its kind, dedicated to treating illness solely through food. Pioneering this radical approach are 3 medical professionals who will treat conditions ranging from diabetes to depression and Crohn's disease to chronic fatigue. The Food Hospital is on the front line of the food as medicine revolution. This week at the Food Hospital, a woman blighted by bad breath.
Other people have said that they can smell poo and the only thing it can be is my breath.
A controversial condition that's notoriously hard to diagnose.
Chronic fatigue syndrome is actually a collection of symptoms, and there's certainly no one-size-fits-all in terms of treatment.
And a patient with one of the UK's biggest killers, high blood pressure.
The problem is it increases heart disease, your risk of stroke.
Dr. Pixie McKenna is on a quest to find out whether food really can have a good or bad influence on cancer.
With so many conflicting reports with regard to food and cancer, how can we decide which is fact and which is fiction?
First into the Food Hospital is a man who takes on the shape of a pregnant woman after every evening meal.
My name's Alan Pogmore, I'm 47 years old. I'm from Swindon. The reason I'm here today is I get severe bloating every time I eat.
Bloating is often caused when the bowel doesn't function well. Abnormal contractions in the bowel cause bloating and pain. Those who suffer from this condition can double their girth size in just one day.
When the bloating starts to occur, it makes it to the stage where your stomach goes rock hard, so you can't breathe in and out. By the end of the night, when I've actually bloated to the full extent, I can be up to 8 inches bigger, the equivalent of being pregnant as a woman. And then I get up in the morning, I'm okay, and every night I become pregnant again.
Alan's bloating is having a huge effect on his personal life, especially his relationship with his girlfriend.
One of the things it does cause a problem with is the sex life we have. I tend to eat late at night. That'll be quite bloated when I go to bed. If we do make love, it does tend to leave me with chest pains. But obviously I'm sweaty as well. It's just not possible. My stomach's just bloated that much that maybe she wants it and I've got no chance, you know what I mean? So it's become debilitating. I'm 47 and I feel like I'm under something.
In order to get a true measure of how much his girth is expanding, the Food Hospital has sent Alan to a clinic to have a bloatometer belt fitted.
This fits neatly around your waist, so if you just hold your shirt up.
The belt will measure the circumference of his stomach over a 24-hour period.
To say I'm really desperate to get this sorted out is a bit of an understatement. I don't like the way I feel or the way I look anymore. I just want to be normal.
So I'm just going to switch it on.
Today, Alan has come to see consultant surgeon Shaw Summers to find out more about his bloating. They begin by looking at his bloatometer results, which have mapped the changes in Alan's girth size.
Your tummy goes from between 95 and 100 centimetres girth to between 115 and 120 centimetres girth. So that's at least a 20% increase in your tummy size. So you do definitely bloat towards the end of the day. Can I ask to have a look at your tummy? Is it bloated a bit at the moment?
Yeah.
Where do you feel the bloating most?
Mine tends to be around this area, as you can see. It's more up than lower.
So you feel it at the top of your tummy. What I'd like to do, Alan, is just measure your body composition on our analyser. So would you step over this way for me?
Alan's body composition is analysed on our special scales, and his blood pressure is taken. For Shaw Summers, his readings are a cause for major concern.
Right. I think bloating is probably just the symptom you've noticed, but actually underlying all that is a whole host of other things. And from my point of view, you're not a well man. Mm-hmm. Your blood pressure is 150 over 100, so you have a high blood pressure. Mm-hmm. If I look at your body composition, you're a fairly heavy chap. You weigh nigh on 19 stone, whereas someone for your height ought to be nearer the 12 stone mark. So you're actually carrying an extra 7 stone around. The analyzer also tells us something called your metabolic age, which should be about the same age as you are, 47.
Yeah.
It's saying that your metabolic age is about 62.
Yeah, it feels like that as well some days, yeah.
The excess weight you're carrying is affecting the way your organs function, and that leads on to irritable bowel syndrome, and that's the thing that you feel as bloating.
Before the consultation, Shaw conducted extensive blood tests. Not only are his cholesterol levels worryingly high, his blood sugar, which should be in the range of 4.4 to 6.1, also comes as a big shock.
Your blood sugar was 14.4, and I'm afraid to tell you that is good and proper diabetes, type 2 diabetes. If we put all of this together, Alan, the blood pressure, the excess weight, the diabetes, the high cholesterol, you have something called metabolic syndrome.
Metabolic syndrome is a deadly combination of high blood pressure, high blood sugar, an increased amount of certain bad fats in the blood, fatty liver, and high cholesterol, which can lead to clogged arteries. The consequences of this on the body can be horrific, and yet it's not uncommon for people to be totally unaware of this silent killer.
So it's an illness that creeps up on you. You will not know you've got it until something goes pop.
I don't want to get there.
Unless you tackle this, it is going to shorten your life considerably.
Alan urgently needs to take control of his health. Dealing with his cocktail of conditions will require radical food treatment, and Lucy's devised a diet specifically for his urgent medical needs.
When you came in today, obviously your overriding issue was bloating.
Yeah.
But as we've dug a little deeper, we've found that actually you're a little bit of a ticking time bomb in terms of the health conditions that you're presenting us with. So the diet that we want to get you started on has got to obviously address a variety of areas. So let's talk about what we don't want you to have. Obviously, it's a lot of things like refined carbohydrates, things that are going to be absorbed in your body really quickly. Anything that's going to cause a peak in your blood sugars and also give you an energy crash as well.
Yeah.
To protect himself against the progression of his metabolic syndrome, Alan must avoid highly processed and sugary foods such as white bread and pastas made with refined flour, sweets, crisps, cakes and biscuits, and sugar-laden breakfast cereals. To deal with his bloating, Alan will also need to avoid breads, fruits such as apples, plums and pears, beans and lentils, and certain greens like cabbage.
So what I want you to be eating, quality food, lots of colours, that's actually going to be supporting your body in trying to recover from these many conditions that you've developed because of your lifestyle.
Alan is going to have to rapidly adopt Lucy's special food plan, designed for his metabolic syndrome. From now on, he'll be eating fresh fruit and vegetables on a regular basis. Lean meat and fish are also on the menu, as are nuts and whole grain cereals.
This is a short, sharp shock of 4 weeks, and you've got to go at it.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be hard work. I think I've had a lot to take on board today. Obviously, we've jumped suddenly onto diabetes. There's problems with my liver, there's other things. So I really need to sort this out now. So the bloating will probably be there for a little while, but I'm just going to have to manage that.
Alan has just 4 weeks to start turning his condition around. If Lucy and Shaw don't see significant change by the time he returns, he'll have no choice but to go on medication, possibly for the rest of his life. All food hospital diets are specifically designed for each patient's needs. If you think a similar diet could help you, you should ask your GP to refer you to a dietitian. Our next patient at the food hospital suffers every time she opens her mouth.
My name's Joan, I'm 23, I live in Banstead and I suffer with bad breath.
Bad breath, or halitosis, can affect anyone at any age, and it's estimated that 50% of us have it persistently.
Other people have said that they can smell poo, and I'm thinking the only thing it can be is my breath. And that's the last thing you want to smell of, isn't it?
Dawn's bad breath is blighting her life, especially her closest relationships.
My other half's just not happy about it. He's really like, oh, it stinks. It smells like someone's died in your mouth. And that's not nice.
Dawn would like to banish her halitosis for good. So today she's seeing Gio and Lucy, who've combined their experience to help their desperate patient.
What kind of symptoms do you have?
It's often a really strong sense of as if my mouth's got a coating on it, as if it's coming up from my throat, and it really tastes disgusting.
So you get like a bad taste in the mouth?
Yeah, definitely.
So that gets a bit awkward if you get intimate?
Yeah. My other half will kiss me on the forehead if it's really bad.
Pinch your nose with this hand. Okay, I have to get here. Go on. Oh. Well, I would rate that 7 out of 10 on the bad breath scale.
Okay.
10 being bad.
Yeah.
And there's lots of causes of bad breath and infections in the nasal cavities, the tonsils, bad oral hygiene.
Bad breath has several other causes, mainly bacteria in the mouth breaking down food and sometimes by infection or illness. It's also caused by having gum disease, eating certain foods, drinking too much alcohol and smoking.
Do you smoke?
No, I don't.
No. How are your bowels?
They're fine.
Yeah, that's good. Because being constipated can actually lead to your breath smelling, as you tend to reabsorb some of the things that can cause bad breath. I mean, generally, for most people, food isn't the cause of bad breath. But of course, some foods can exacerbate the symptoms.
Foods you definitely shouldn't eat if you have bad breath are sugary foods like sweets and cakes, foods made with copious quantities of garlic and onion like curries and stews, and too much alcohol. Thankfully, there are other foods that can help eradicate halitosis.
And there have been some studies with a very specific type of probiotic that has actually been shown to help in some people with bad breath if you take it every day for 4 weeks, and that's a strain of lactobacillus. Lactobacillus can be found in lots of common probiotics, either in drink form or things like tablet or sachet form.
To banish bad breath, there are plenty of things that can help. The citric acid in citrus fruits stimulates the flow of saliva, which freshens up your mouth and washes away lingering food. Probiotics taken as yogurt drinks or in sachet form, teas like peppermint and green tea, and surprisingly, a glass of milk can have a deodorising effect on your breath.
The things that might be really worth trying for you are the probiotics and starting to have quite regular things like green tea during the day to see if it has that deodorising effect for you.
Brilliant.
And then let us know how you get on.
Yeah, I will, thank you. Yeah, I did find it really useful actually, and just a few things mentioned that I'd never heard of or even thought of. So I'll try some of the probiotic yogurts to maintain, the breath a bit and hopefully tame it.
In 6 weeks, Dawn will revisit the food hospital to find out if her breath has been tamed. Today, a young woman arrives at the food hospital seeking relief from a controversial and energy-draining illness, which many in our society don't take seriously.
My name's Steph, I'm 25, I'm from Birmingham and I have chronic fatigue syndrome.
Once dubbed yuppie flu by the tabloids, chronic fatigue syndrome, or ME, myalgic encephalomyelitis, is actually a serious illness afflicting 250,000 people in this country. Symptoms include debilitating tiredness and a lack of energy, aching joints, depression, headaches and insomnia.
I have a lot of aches and pains throughout my body, particularly in my head a lot of the time, massive issues with concentration.
For more than 20 years, scientists have struggled to find the cause of this difficult-to-diagnose condition. Some point to physiological reasons, in particular viral infections, while others argue that psychological problems are involved, but as yet none of these are proven.
I think a lot of people are kind of reluctant to believe that actually there's anything wrong beyond kind of a laziness. It is incredibly frustrating.
Chronic fatigue syndrome cost the British economy over £100 million in lost working hours last year. Steph would love to work, but her condition has made potential employers wary of taking her on.
It very much holds me back. I've just now finished my degree, and obviously the next step now is to go and find a job, but that's something that, again, because of the chronic fatigue, is going to be very difficult.
After 13 years of being unable to live a normal life, Steph is determined to try and beat her condition.
In my mind, I feel, perfectly fine, but obviously I can't go out and do the things that I would want to do, the things that everyone else my age or my friends are doing. It's just overwhelming completely.
With a condition that's so hard to pin down, today Steph is seeing Gio and Lucy together to examine her chronic fatigue in more detail.
Now, one of the things you did beforehand was to fill out a questionnaire, the Piper Fatigue Questionnaire. So on a scale of 1 to 10, you rated, according to various questions, how tired you felt. You were scoring basically 9s and 10s. They were all really on the high end of the scale, which is what you'd expect for somebody with chronic fatigue. So we'll use that again in the future to see if there's been any change. Because your symptoms are subjective, we've got no other way of measuring them.
What would be really helpful for me is if you told me how food fits into your life at the moment, Steph.
I don't eat at regular times. I tend to kind of skip breakfast, probably eat lunch and dinner quite late in the day.
A lot of the symptoms could actually be related to low blood sugar levels when you haven't eaten regularly enough. And it's something that a lot of people in the general population will also suffer with.
Sticking to regular meals isn't only for people with chronic fatigue syndrome. We should all eat small amounts often to make sure our energy levels are constant. Lucy has given Steph a plan of balanced regular meals rich in glutamine, a protein-building substance found in lean meats and dairy, which also helps boost our energy. And there's one highly surprising addition.
Would it be good news if I suggested to you that we should include chocolate on a daily basis?
I'm not going to cry about it.
We're talking dark chocolate.
Okay.
Actually 85% cocoa solid. It's high in compounds called flavonoids, which is antioxidants, and 45 grams a day has been suggested to actually improve residual function in people with chronic fatigue.
One small-scale study has shown that flavonoids may improve symptoms in subjects with chronic fatigue. Scientists know that cocoa can increase levels of serotonin, the mood-regulating neurotransmitter. This could help symptoms like depression that often occur in CFS sufferers, many of whom are known to have an imbalance in serotonin levels.
I do think it's quite sort of speculative.
Oh, absolutely. And I think what we've got to remember is that chronic fatigue syndrome is actually a collection of symptoms, and there's certainly no one-size-fits-all in terms of treatment. It's all pretty experimental, particularly surrounding diet. I don't think there's any harm in us trying these things and see if they improve your personal symptoms.
This is an experimental food plan because as yet, there's no diagnosed cure for chronic fatigue syndrome. But for a frustrated Steph who wants to turn her life around, anything is worth a try.
I think it's always going to be a surprise to be told that you can eat chocolate and it's good for you, really. I suppose it's not the chocolate that I'd normally eat. I'd normally go for milk chocolate, and I've never been a huge fan of dark chocolate, but we'll give it a go.
It's 6 weeks since Dawn first came to the food hospital suffering with bad breath, and today she's come back to have her progress assessed. Dawn has kept to a plan of probiotic drinks and herbal teas, and this is her moment of truth.
So Dawn, tell us about what you've changed since we last saw you in the food hospital.
I made sure that I have one of the probiotic yogurt drinks every morning, and I keep drinking green tea and peppermint tea throughout the day, and it's really seems to have made a difference.
I think it's time, in my capacity as professional breath smeller, to give it a go.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, hold your nose. Well, it's fresher, that's for sure. Last time it was really quite nasty, to be honest, and today it's actually got normal breath.
Improved, yeah, good.
One of the things that was really bothering you when we saw you last time was actually the reaction from your other half.
Yeah.
Has that improved?
Yeah, bless him. He says it's a lot less rank. Oh, I haven't.
Oh, he's such a charmer.
Yes, a definite charmer, but no, definitely getting more kisses.
More kisses on the mouth and less on the head.
Less on the forehead, yeah. Yeah, it's going well.
Oh, that's wonderful news. Really nice to see you again.
Yeah, thanks for your help, guys.
Well done.
We actually gave Dawn a lot of ideas that could help with her bad breath, but she seems to have focused in on two main things, being the probiotics and having cups of tea, both peppermint and green. But actually, any tea can help with bad breath because it helps to deodorise the sulphur compounds in the mouth. And taking milk with it also helps. So for anyone with bad breath, lots of cups of tea and milk.
It really is amazing that literally just having a couple of different things throughout the day can make such a huge difference. I think if someone had told me months and months ago that this would happen, I'd be like, yeah, okay. But it really has made a difference, and I'm so pleased.
I'm Dr. Pixie McKenna, and this week I'm going to investigate the relationship between food and this deadly disease. Can eating certain foods protect us from cancer? And can others put us at greater risk of getting it? I have to say, I'm rather partial to a fry-up, and I do like the odd glass of red wine. It's commonly reported that red wine protects us from cancer, and burnt food increases our risk of getting it. But with so many conflicting reports with regard to food and cancer, how can we decide which is fact and which is fiction?
Oh, there's always something that can give you cancer.
I've heard that like processed foods like bacon or sausages can increase risk of some cancers, I think.
Everything gives you cancer. Drinking energy drinks, cancer. Eating an apple, cancer. Yeah, cancer.
I know broccoli helps with cancer. I know there's like some stuff in the papers saying that they've got a new super broccoli.
Chemotherapy, really. I don't think food or drink could cure cancer.
There are so many confusing claims when it comes to talking about food and cancer. Alcohol, caffeine and dairy are some of the foods that have been claimed to both cause and prevent it. But are there foods that we should eat or avoid when it comes to talking about cancer? Later I'll be talking to cancer specialist Professor Robert Thomas to find out how our diets can influence this disease, both for good and bad.
When Alan first came to the food hospital seeking help for his bloating, he was actually diagnosed with metabolic syndrome, a host of serious conditions including type 2 diabetes. He was given just 4 weeks to completely turn around his eating habits or face a potentially much shorter life expectancy. Now he's back to see if he's managed to stay away from the fry-ups and if it's made any difference to his symptoms.
Well, I'm pleased to say that after even a shorter period as a month, the signs are looking good in terms of your overall weight has come down 0.5 stone. Looking at the blood test, there's a gentle trend towards all the things getting better. Yeah. So your cholesterol is down a little, the blood sugar has started to come down. Now all of these things are at the very beginning of the change towards improvement. Yeah. But I think for anybody who has something like metabolic syndrome, it's a lifestyle and a lifelong change that you have to adopt. And the important thing for you is, can you do it? Is it easy enough to do?
Yes, I would have said. Yeah, I think the key was I got the kick up the arse I needed, although not for the original problem.
We gave you the eating plan for the metabolic syndrome, and we also tried to take out those very typical triggers that would worsen the bloating. Have you noticed an improvement in your symptoms?
Bloating's still there, but it's not severe, it's more gradual, and it's never been to the full extent it was before.
Can I ask about home life? Do you find that a bit more enjoyable? Things looking up that end?
Yeah, the sexual side of stuff's got a lot better. So I'm not getting any pains, and I'm not going to bed that bloated. I don't feel like somebody doesn't want to be near me as well. So.
And that's the benefits of a Mediterranean-style diet. We know that it can actually make you feel a bit more in the romantic mood.
Well, look, it sounds like you've made great first steps in the last 4 weeks.
And our hope is that you won't need to necessarily start taking tablets for the conditions that you're developing because you've got a grip of your eating habits.
Some of the good things that have come from this is obviously the fact now I've got a lot more energy from what I used to have before. I feel sexy, if you know what I mean, it makes it available, whereas before I'd be, oh God, I feel horrible, don't come near me. So it's drastic changes in a way.
Although diet has helped some of Alan's symptoms, if you think you may have metabolic syndrome, it's important to see your GP. It's 3 weeks since 25-year-old Steph came to the food hospital for help with her chronic fatigue syndrome, a condition which affects 250,000 of us and for which conventional medicine is yet to find a cause or a cure.
The biggest difference since coming back from the food hospital has been trying to kind of implement a routine, getting everything a little bit more regimented. So I've been swimming 3 times a week. I probably only do about 15-20 minutes at most, which I suppose most people would consider terribly lazy, but yeah, I'm going to try and build it up from there.
To keep her energy levels constant, Lucy asked Steph to rectify her erratic eating habits with regular balanced meals. In addition, she's also prescribed half a bar of dark chocolate a day, an experimental approach that was shown to improve symptoms of chronic fatigue in one small-scale trial.
It does actually taste a little bit like medicine, to be honest, so yeah. It's always in the back of my mind that at some point I will go back into being, you know, really quite tired, quite worn out. But I try to be upbeat about it and try and not let the niggling little negatives take over.
Our next patient into the food hospital suffers from a condition that's not only potentially fatal, it's also incredibly common.
My name's Joan Davis. I'm in my 50s. I'm from Reading and I have high blood pressure.
16 million people in the UK have high blood pressure or hypertension. It has no obvious symptoms but leads to 62,000 deaths in the UK each year. Blood pressure measures how strongly your blood presses against the walls of your arteries or large blood vessels as it's pumped around your body by your heart. If this pressure is too high, it puts a strain on your arteries and heart, causing it to become enlarged. This increases the risk of heart attack, stroke and kidney failure. High blood pressure can be caused by an unhealthy diet and lifestyle, but Joan is careful about what she eats and exercises regularly, so being diagnosed with this condition came as a big blow.
I felt disappointed because I thought that I was doing everything that I possibly could.
Despite her healthy lifestyle, Joan is reluctantly on medication to help keep her blood pressure in check.
Mum's really healthy.
She's really healthy. Yeah.
She sort of puts us to shame a lot of the time.
What days do you do Zumba? That's on a Wednesday.
People of Afro-Caribbean and African origin are more at risk of developing high blood pressure for reasons not yet fully understood. Generations of Joan's family have had it, with tragic consequences.
One of my younger brothers had a brain hemorrhage. And one of the things the doctor said was that his blood pressure was quite high.
And also her parents passed away very young as well. They were only in their 50s when they died. They both died of heart attacks. So we might have that to look forward to too.
Yeah.
I think those are definitely things that play on our mind, you know, constantly.
Joan's at the food hospital to see Gio. The first thing he does is take her blood pressure. A reading of less than 130/80 on the mercury scale is usually considered normal. If it's much higher, that should ring alarm bells.
So 143/92 is a bit on the high side. I think certainly with your family history and the different things, we'd want to see that a lot lower. So, you know, shooting for somewhere closer to 120 or more realistically perhaps 130. But high blood pressure on its own is not necessarily a problem. It's just sitting there. Most people don't have any symptoms. The problem is it increases heart disease, your risk of stroke. Fortunately, we do know that if you treat high blood pressure, then the risk of those things like stroke and heart attacks goes way down. So what we're going to introduce you to is something called the DASH diet. And this is a diet that came out of the States from the US Heart and Lung Institute. And it's very high in potassium, calcium and magnesium. And those minerals can help reduce blood pressure. So alongside your medication, we're going to give it a go and see if we get any benefit from it.
Lucy is going to take Joan through the details of the DASH diet. She starts with the foods that pose the highest danger.
When most people think about high blood pressure, we usually think about salt. That's the obvious one, isn't it? That we know high blood pressure is caused by having too much salt. How do you feel your salt intake is at the moment?
Minimal.
Salt is an ingredient that we often consume without knowing it because it's hidden in products like ready-made sauces, takeaways and tinned and packet foods, so always check the label before you buy. Other foods that Joan must steer clear of are trans fats like those in baked foods and crisps, caffeine, alcohol and all sugary drinks.
So we're really going to focus on getting you to the right levels of calcium, magnesium and potassium. And for you, it's mainly going to be the calcium because you're already doing fantastically with the potassium through your fruit and vegetables, and you have your whole grains, so you're getting plenty of magnesium as well.
If you've got high blood pressure, your DASH diet should include foods high in calcium, magnesium and potassium, such as whole grain breads, nuts and pulses, plenty of fruit and vegetables, skimmed milk and lean meat. To get Joan started, Lucy shows her a simple DASH-friendly sandwich rich in minerals needed to combat her high blood pressure, starting with a seeded panini.
So the first thing I'm going to put in is our spinach pesto. So what we've put in here is fresh spinach leaves. We put some almonds in, some parmesan and lemon juice. So obviously this is going to be great for both the potassium and the magnesium. Lovely. I'm going to then layer our lean chicken on. This has been grilled. The other things I'm going to put on is a little bit of mozzarella, and this is reduced fat mozzarella, so it's going to give you a bit more of that calcium, all right?
That's tasty.
Yeah?
I'm talking with my mouth full.
That's all right, I'll let you off.
I'm feeling excited about things over the next 6 weeks. The aim, obviously, is to lower my blood pressure. So I'm really looking forward to, starting it really.
Joan will continue on her current medication dosage throughout her food hospital treatment. So any change in her blood pressure should be down to her new diet.
I'm Dr. Pixie McKenna, and I've come to the Bedford Hospital Cancer Unit to find out if diet can either protect against cancer or increase your chances of getting it. Today I'm meeting Professor Robert Thomas, a consultant oncologist specialising in breast, bowel and prostate cancer, with 20 years' experience in patient care.
Professor Thomas, when it comes to cancer and food, there's a lot of conflicting information out there about which foods may protect me and which foods may in fact promote cancers.
Well, you're right that the evidence is confusing. Nevertheless, there are clear guidelines now emerging from well-published work which shows which foods can help and which foods can't help.
So what about the don'ts in terms of what we just should not be eating?
Carcinogenic foods would be unhealthy animal fats, that sort of category. And probably number one is barbecued meat. That's known quite strongly to cause free radicals to form in your bloodstream and cleave the DNA, and actually that's the first step in the cancer process.
It's true that grilling meat, poultry and fish over flames produces one group of carcinogenic chemicals. And smoke from fat dripping onto hot coals also creates chemicals that go back onto the food, giving it a charred look. However, there is evidence to suggest that eating small amounts infrequently is unlikely to cause harm. Marinating meat before barbecuing will help reduce 95% of the effects of burning. You can also grill foods in foil to keep smoke out and trim fat to reduce drips onto the hot coals. But what about red wine? It contains a compound called resveratrol, which has been shown in tests to prevent malignant tumours.
I'm afraid to say that the latest evidence is that alcohol is unhealthy. There's been a number of trials, including one in the British Medical Journal recently, which shows that more than one alcoholic drink a day, I'm afraid, is harmful. There's probably about 9,000 deaths in the UK, which you could directly contribute to alcohol in terms of cancer.
Damn.
Sorry.
However, drinking small amounts of alcohol can have a beneficial effect on cardiovascular disease. But evidence shows that if you binge drink, that's over 8 units for a man or 6 for a woman, just once a month, that protective effect disappears.
We have done a lot of research here looking at which foods have the highest antioxidant content. Turmeric, broccoli, pomegranate, green tea, packed full of antioxidants, and some evidence that they reduce cancer progression. And that's why in this unit we've formulated a tablet containing those foods, and we are testing that in a randomised trial against a placebo.
So that's happening right here, right now, in this hospital?
Yes, started 2 days ago. To see how many people will actually get that fantastic response. It might be just a handful. I'm hoping it's a bit more.
So let's get this straight. No food can cure us from cancer. At the moment, there's exciting anecdotal evidence that some foods can help protect us from it, but it's still to be corroborated by scientific data. And that's why Professor Thomas is now conducting clinical trials to assess their value in helping to fight this widespread disease.
Now more than ever before, experts are looking at the cancer-fighting potential of foods. And it's great to see the first human trials so that we can fully assess how effective they really are.
A month has passed and Steph has returned to the food hospital to see a curious Lucy and Gio about her chronic fatigue. Have regular healthy meals and dark chocolate given Steph's energy levels a boost?
We had you fill out a questionnaire before and after this treatment, which was a tool to measure your level of fatigue. And there's 23 questions, and you were scoring quite highly, sort of 9s and 10s, meaning quite a lot of fatigue. And this time, most of your scores are sort of 5, 6 or 7. So it objectively appears that there's certainly been an improvement, which is great.
What do you think's worked and what do you think hasn't?
I'm sorry to tell you that the bit that didn't was the chocolate. I didn't really feel any kind of benefit from it, to be honest. But the eating patterns, I think, have been the biggest thing to change and impacted most significantly, really. Things that I always put down to having chronic fatigue, such as feeling really dizzy, feeling, really quite faint at certain points in the day, actually those symptoms with the regular intake of food seem to have significantly reduced from what they were before.
So in fact you were hungry?
Yes, I think so, yeah, pretty much.
What else has changed in your life?
I've got a job, I'm officially an employed person now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Although it's small, that level of activity has also made a big difference.
We don't actually know much about chronic fatigue syndrome, and we know even less about dietary components that will help. So you were fairly experimental. It's a real eye-opener that, just by adopting better dietary and lifestyle habits, you've been able to improve your perceived symptoms of chronic fatigue, which is a real positive outcome.
I worked so hard researching individual functional foods that might actually impact Steph's chronic fatigue, and the one thing that did work was giving her a basic healthy eating plan. But hey, at least she's feeling better.
Until someone actually, takes you by the hand and goes, look, this is what you're doing wrong, these are the things that you need to change, it's very easy to kind of not really notice what it is you're doing wrong, to be honest.
For Steph, a healthy, balanced diet seems to have alleviated her symptoms. But as chronic fatigue syndrome affects everyone differently, it's important to seek medical advice for any treatment you may wish to try. It's 5 weeks since Joan first visited the food hospital. And she's been rigidly following her new food plan by incorporating all the new foods in the DASH diet.
The diet so far is going really good. I'm getting my calcium, lots of dairy, which wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
She's also doing regular exercise at a weekly Zumba class.
I like Zumba because it's quite energising. There's lots of different moves. Not that I'm good at them.
Today, Joan's returning to the food hospital to find out if her hard work has paid off. The moment of reckoning arrives as Gio tests her blood pressure. On her first visit, Joan was 143/92, way over the normal range of 130/80 and less.
All right, that's a bit of a good result, which is 130/90. Now, that's a really good blood pressure.
brilliant. I'm really pleased with that.
Yeah.
Really, really.
And you put a lot of work in terms of your lifestyle and the food that you're eating.
Yeah, I mean, I feel good, and I'd like to obviously continue, as an alternative to the medications.
It would be great if you could come off medication, but I think it's important that those numbers don't get any higher. It's not going to go away. It's not going to get cured.
No.
So it's always going to be there, and it does have a tendency to creep up with age. But hopefully you can limit the dosage that you're taking or the combination of drugs, because a lot of people with high blood pressure have to take more than one medication. At the moment, you're just taking one.
Yeah.
So that's actually pretty good for someone in your situation.
Okay, good.
I think you should sort of be quite encouraged that you've really sort of done all you can. You're squeezing the lemon as far as lifestyle goes.
Yeah.
But well done. I think you should feel pretty good.
Yeah, thank you. I do.
Joan's done a fantastic job of doing all she can lifestyle-wise to control her high blood pressure. The thing is, high blood pressure is actually a very serious problem and it causes early deaths. So no one should be managing this by themselves. It needs to be done with medical supervision and, if necessary, prescription drugs.
Well, I'm really happy with the results, all around really, but obviously there's room for improvement. So I'll obviously continue with the diet and make sure that I keep it up.
Although she will remain under medical supervision, if Joan continues her DASH diet as rigorously as she has been, she might avoid the need for increased medication, thanks to the use of food as medicine.